construction. And so I think the number down here where it says new revenue from reassessment, where it says 30,000, that's usually from some sort of oversight or something from the assessor where they make corrections. And so that was the very small amount that made up the rest of it. So almost all new construction for this round of increases.
So, but just to clarify, that the actual revenue is only 693,000, right? At the bottom.
Let's see. Oh, generated from that? Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So right. Revenue generated from that amount is right. That for this. We don't receive.
So we're not talking 20 million.
Correct.
That's the assessed value of the properties.
That is correct.
The actual increase in revenue, 693,000, which is only, again, it's 0.8% growth.
Correct.
So we're actually lower than inflation.
Correct. So that's what the district receives from that increase assessed value.
So any reduction in the tax rate would actually hurt us. It would actually be declining from last year.
It would hinder our ability to do the different programs and things that they want to do for the district, yes.
And this wouldn't be the year that we would have been required to lower it anyway. Last year, when we had a 9% growth, was the year we were required to lower it. I'm not going to ask you about it because you weren't here last year,
sure.
but sure. Thank you for putting all of that together.
Sure, no problem. Absolutely.
We do ask that you approve that.
We need a motion to approve that.
Oh, next on the agenda is public comment. Was there no public comment on that section?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. I have a comment.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for recognizing me to speak. I would like to briefly explain why I'm opposed to this maneuvering of taxpayer money between fund accounts. As I explained last year, when the district's revenue was going to be a so-called windfall with an increase of over 5% in funding from the community, the Hancock Amendment in the Missouri Constitution specifically required us then to lower our levy in order to return some of that windfall of money to the taxpayers. The Hancock Amendment was passed specifically to help our community members during times of rising property taxes and tighter economic funds. The explicitly written intent of that very clear constitutional amendment was to help taxpayers get to keep more of their own money by paying less in taxes. It has long been the pattern of many school districts and their financial advisors across the state to circumvent that requirement, and has been talked about in our area, in our district, specifically criticized by some local officials, that they circumvent that requirement by shifting money around to different fund accounts in successive years, a trick which is not technically illegal, but it's certainly, in my opinion, unethical and in violation of the clear intent of that law. To be clear, I fully support giving our students and teachers in schools every ounce of support we can muster. I worked as a teacher for many years in public schools. I wholeheartedly agree with a quote often attributed to Jefferson explaining an educated citizenry is a vital requisite for our survival as a free people. It behooves us as a community to make sure our kids are well educated. Educating our kids is one of, if not the, most vitally important responsibilities of parents and families, and those parents and families have hired a group of us, called a school district, to become equipped to do that for them, under their direction and at their sometimes painful expense, during property tax times especially. Doing so openly, transparently, if you will, and with accountability to those parents in that community then becomes one of, if not the, most vitally important requirements for our school district. Shifting money between funds by alternately raising and lowering the different levies on alternate years, rather than returning it to the taxpayer, is accountable neither to the law passed by those representing that same community we are to represent, nor is it therefore accountable to the community. And when we get ready to vote, I have a reason for my no vote that I want to read and have inserted in minutes. And I understand this isn't the year that we are required to lower the levy at all. I'm fine with the way we're doing it this year, except for this year is the second part of the pattern that started last year. Raise this one in order to offset the one we had to lower. And now this year is do it the other way. Raise the other one and lower the other one. So I just can't go along with continuing that pattern. It's been a pattern for a long time here, but it's across the state. Just because something is not illegal doesn't mean necessarily that we should do it.
Our community has given us permission to run our district on 4.14 over the past 2 decades. The way we choose to arrange that 4.14 is a board decision to wisely use the resources the community has given us. We continue to stay true to our word with the public. When I compare the excellent education Ozark students get to this region of the state, we are equal or better in every category. Our tax rate is in the middle range. We are 3 cents lower than the state average and are roughly 30 cents below Nixa, 35 cents below Lebanon, and 17 cents below Logan Rogersville. Thank you for the information. And 17 cents below Logan Rogersville. And for an innovative school district who cares about each child, we need every penny to provide a high-quality education. I make a motion.
I'll second it.
That we what?
At the voter approved 4.14.
We have a motion by Sarah to set the tax levy at 4.14, seconded by Guy.
Does she need to, I'm sorry, point of order. Does she just need to include in her motion the numbers that are there? Because it matters. The two different funds have different levies.
Would we
It's
say as
not just
presented?
the overall one.
As presented.
As presented. Okay, as presented.
And yes, I still second the as presented to approve that.
All in favor? Aye.
No.
Any opposed?
Yeah, I'm a no, sorry. I'd like my reason to be included in the minutes for that no. This maneuvering of money between funds called creative financing by more than one local official is not something which, in good conscience, I can support. I voted against the first part of the maneuver last year when the tax levy for operating expenses was lowered while the levy for the debt service fund was raised, with the result that the total levy remains static rather than it being lowered as required by law. I must sadly now vote against the second part of that maneuver this year because we have got to break that pattern. When the reverse is done this year in order to restore the money that was rat-holed last year rather than return to the taxpayers as was rightfully due them. No one's talking about lowering any, cutting any budgets or reducing any expenditures. We're only talking about following the law about capping how much of an increase we have. We're not supposed to have a 9% increase. Thank you.
Motion passed with one no vote.
Thank you for your time.
Right.
There's no,
Have superintendent reports.
I just wanted to quickly state that we have had an awesome beginning to the school year.
Yeah.
Okay, a great, great beginning. It is so much fun to go into the classrooms, to talk to the teachers. I think Rachel back there, she told me just a minute ago that a student said, "Where did you get that? Tell me something good." And she said, "Well, our superintendent." And the child goes, "Well, I thought you were our superintendent." You know, and so just childlike things like that really make our job great. And so it's been a great to the start of the year. I will tell you that as of now, our enrollment is flat. You know, it will shake out a little bit once Labor Day passes, because some, you know, you have some movements and some schools start later or earlier than Labor Day. And so it may shake out a little bit, but right now we are really flat. And I just want to say a big thank you to all of our administrators as well as our teachers for making this a wonderful year so far. It's going to be a great year.
Administrative reports. No additions to the reports that are presented. All right. Future dates. September 19th is currently our schedule for our next board meeting. October 18th and 19th is a MSBA conference in Kansas City. October 24th is our October board meeting. November 21st for November board meeting, and December 19th for December board meeting.
Could we look at the possibility of the last week of October for a work session during the daytime? The last week is the 31st. I have to think backwards when I saw it. 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st. I don't know if anybody really wants to do it on Halloween, but if you could look at your calendars to see if you had either the 28th, the 29th, or the 30th available for a work session, then that will allow us to start planning. I would prefer a Tuesday or a Wednesday. But if it didn't work that way for you, we could do the 28th. But that gives us at least a day to make sure everything is ready. Yep, please email me. That would be great. Okay.
All right. Next on the agenda is approval of extra duty hires.
We pulled this because Mr. Jenkins has a relative in that area, so we need to have a separate vote without Mr. Jenkins.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
You want me to say?
All in favor? Any opposed? And I abstain. Motion passes. Did you get first and second? You got first and second? Okay. All right, next on the agenda is to approve the consent agenda. Would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by James, second by Amber. All in favor? Unanimously approved. Next is the approval of the Board of Education open session minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Guy. Second by Christina. All in favor? Motion passes. Next is new business change orders on construction projects.
We have two different change orders. Neither one of them add to the contract overall price. If we could start with the storm shelter multi-purpose space. So there's really two on here, and one is a benefit or side effect of closing down the school for summer to add the HVAC. Some fire extinguisher cabinets, which I don't see in here, but you know, the cabinets that are recessed into the sheetrock that are required by code to have, were sent, shipped, signed for by somebody at the high school. We shut the school down, we couldn't find them. So the additional cost is we will have, when we find them, new fire extinguisher cabinets that we will be able to reuse, and it's a $308 cost. That was a side effect of putting HVAC system in the high school, which I don't have time to brag about, but you saw it in your plan, and it's working really, really well. 68, 69 degrees every day.
I think you should brag about that.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. It's been a long time since they've had air conditioning in there that works every day. Thank you for doing that.
It is a team effort, and the board approves the ESCO, so it's a team effort. It is huge. It is huge. Actual complaints about being too cold, so I'll take it.
That's awesome.
The second one is rework inverter circuiting. So by code, a storm shelter has to have an inverter in it. You can design everything on paper and it looks great. When it comes down to it, we do load testing, and on that load testing, it was determined that we need to do a different balancing on the circuits that coming off of the inverter. That was a rewire that did cost us $2,357, but that's not that's still from the contingency. That's moving all of that from the contingency. It doesn't add anything to the contract. The contract is still the same dollar amount. Next up, and I'm going to throw someone underneath the bus. He doesn't know I'm going to talk to him, but I'd like Eric Russell, if he could come up. Sorry. I'm going to give you a second to think about what you're going to say. Because we did, as we look at the asphalt, we do have the next change order for the middle school parking lot is to reinstall existing asphalt, and that's for $25,256. And we knew that anytime you do into this, you put a per unit base in there. So sometimes we'll have per unit rock, per unit steel if we're replacing a roof. When you're doing an asphalt parking lot, you do a per unit tear out replacement. And that was the total for that, for the yardage that we did, was $25,256. And then while we were doing that, we actually had a conversation because there's a light pole at the end of the driveway, and they said it's dead. And both Mark Fott and I looked at each other and go, there's not a parking lot light there. So it's been dead for quite a while. So they were able to pull that off of the sign, but that was an add of $2,210. And when I say add, it was moving it from contingency over to the contract. The contract amount did not change. Item 3 is a suitable replacement was proposed by the CMAR on the roofing, which actually saved us money, and that was going to move $5,175 from the contract back into contingency. So I brought Dr. Russell up to talk about the parking lot. So we bragged on the roof, or that we bragged on the HVAC system. I would like for him to talk about NN and the first 2 days of school and how it flowed for him.
Can I just say that we didn't get on NN once this year, before school, after school, any of it. So it was an absolute success. From the moment parents pulled on day one onto the parking lot, we were even day one, when you're having probably 10% more morning and afternoon pickup and drop off. But when parents pulled on the lot, we were able to snake through our parking lot. And I got to be honest, when I initially looked at it, I thought, okay, we might have a bit of a pinch point at the end of the day when our cars are leaving the island and heading to NN. But I mean, day one was 22 minutes getting every car off, and day 2 was 16 minutes getting everyone off. Since then, we've consistently held 16 minutes to get everybody off the lot. And I don't know about you, but that saves everyone time and gets them out of our parking lot, and they get that much time back in their lives. So, and then finally, the last thing that I would just say is the addition of the little cut through to allow parents to come in and park in the afternoon, be able to get out, come get their kid after 2:30 before our car line starts, or after our car line has already started, has been huge. We've had several parents that are super excited about the fact they've got a 3:30 doctor's appointment and they can actually make it. So yeah, it's been so smooth. So thank you guys for approving that and giving us that new lot, because it's been amazing.
So, and I would be remiss if I didn't brag on Esterly Snyder, Melissa, who is not in, but we have Tim here today. Principals have looked at that. Executive directors have looked at that. Superintendents have looked at that. Our engineers in the past have looked at it. Esterly Snyder came out, examined it, and said, this is what we need to do. And we put that bus parking lot in at district expense 2 years ago in preparation of this, and then we did this summer. So hats off to Esterly Snyder, and they continue to be a great partner, so we do appreciate them. And we did have a discussion, and Dr. Russell was like, hey, and I said, well, we can, no changes, but we'll take the word merge out. And so we came to a little compromise, but it turns out that Esterly Snyder, as designed, fixed a great issue. So thank you, Tim, and let the rest of your team know that. We do appreciate it. Thank you. So that's the change orders as presented. No change to the contract. We're either moving money to or from contingencies to offset the costs of making things right. So, yes, ma'am.
Just to be clear, money in contingency at the end of the project, what happens to that money in that contingency?
That contingency money will go back to come out of the contract, but it still remains in bond project to be used for, like we did with the roof at South,
Like the school could use it.
for general construction projects. Yes.
Just checking, because, you know, I never like it when somebody says, well, it didn't cost us any money because it was in the contingency fund. No, because that money would have come back to us if we hadn't used it, but it's fine. I understand the need for the change, but I just want to be careful about the terminology. It still costs something. If you go to the store and they say, oh, well, this price is the same, you aren't getting the sale price, people are going to say that cost me more money, even though you didn't get the sale price, you didn't get your money back. So it's taxpayer money, and we need to recognize that we're spending it. Right, and if it weren't spent on this item because we were able to save it, we could spend it on something else and not have to spend more money.
I'll entertain a motion to approve. All in favor? Next on the agenda is for year 24 preliminary ASBR information.
All right, so this is an informational only item, nothing to vote on here. I just wanted to keep the board up to date on how we finished the year financially. Our fiscal year, of course, goes from July 1st to June 30th, and we just finished up and got everything, well, in July, got everything uploaded to DESI for our ASBR. And so some of the highlights, we ended the year last year, the 23-24 school year, with a 26.11 reserve ratio. And what a reserve ratio means is that's your ending fund balance in funds 1 and 2 divided by the total expenditures that you had in fund 1 and 2. The reason fund 3 and 4 are not included in that is because fund 3 is, of course, for debt service. It's restricted just for those items. And fund 4 is those items that Curtis was talking about. They can only be used for construction. And so when we look at the reserve ratio, it is only funds 1 and 2. And so if you've looked at trends of the district in the past 3 or 4 years, we had a downward trend. And so this 26.11% flattens us out from the previous year as well. Our district auditors do recommend a fund balance of between 20 and 25%. And so that puts us near the top end of that level. And just wanted to note that we did transfer a little over $455,000 from Fund 1 to Fund 2 because it is against state statute to end a fund in a negative. And so that zeroes out Fund 2, which school districts around the state do every single year. And then we transferred a little over $2.7 million from Fund 1 to Fund 4 to pay for lease purchase cost related to construction and also any capital project cost as well. And so some of the highlights that I wanted to mention for this last fiscal year is our revenue. We had strong revenue from the state. Early on, they estimated about $13.74 per WADA for state aid for Prop C. And of course, Prop C is the state sales tax that comes in as local revenue. And they ended up paying $1,475. So that really helped the district from a revenue perspective there. And then so revenue, of course, related to federal government continues to decline. And the last of our ESSER 3 payments related to coronavirus relief was initially scheduled to be paid in this fiscal year. It's actually going to be FY25, which is our current year that we're in. So it wasn't on last year's ASBR. Some other things to note, our earnings from our deposits was really strong. Interest rates were high. And so we had, of course, sold our bond and had a lot of interest coming in off that. So a lot of nice earnings for the district there. Employee insurance, of course, insurance rates continue to increase. And so that expense came a little over budget. And then our staff services, we have moved to PINMAC. And so you will see that line item was higher than anticipated because we moved to that contracted service. And then the last piece to highlight was the workers' compensation insurance. Again, same motto there, that those costs continue to increase as well for workers' comp, and that's something we're required to have. And so the other document that you have, which is the analysis document, kind of just gives per source and per fund what the anticipated budget was and then what the actual was. And I do want to point out that budgeted number was put in over 13 months ago for a preliminary budget, and then now we're getting those final results. So for those numbers we put in 13 months ago, and to be, you know, within 1% of our revenue is really good estimation. So to have those estimates become so close for that is really spot on. And then anything that you see in the top 5 in the other areas, there is some sort of explanation, like the ESSER funds. Again, that got pushed to next fiscal year. The employee insurance, again, those costs continue to rise. And then delinquent taxes, even though that shows that we didn't quite collect delinquent taxes what we had thought, that means more people paid on time. We still get the money, whether it's in regular tax or delinquent tax, it's just which bucket they put it in. So be happy to answer any questions on our preliminary SBR report. And again, this is just informational only, no vote required.
I'll say first off, fantastic work with the, with that reserve ratio. I think back with the budget we presented in June, I think it was around 18%, and it's kind of concerning looking at that decline, predicting out 5 years, but looks like we flattened that out, so that's awesome.
I'm just the messenger here, so you have to give all kudos to the person before me.
Yeah, well, hey,
That's right.
you can take the credit, you're standing there.
Absolutely.
So, and then, you know, I think we talked about this, you know, I'd like to, not right now, but going forward, look at what are the projections for that federal cuts in the out years, so.
Yeah, you're right. Revenue in federal does continue to decline, and so we'll keep a good eye on that and put those in projections.
I want to say I appreciate our superintendent last year managing that so well and implementing the kind of budgeting that really actually shows what was spent and stuff. I remember that was a little bit of a change, and I appreciate her doing that. Seems like it's made a big difference and it's helped. I forget what you call that, zero? Is that zero-based? What do you call that?
We didn't go to zero-based budgeting, but it's just showing the true variances. We didn't
Right,
zero
true.
everything out at the end of the year,
Yeah.
but we were just showing the variances in the counts. And that's a process that will take a few years to, so that people aren't scared to see a red line or a red number in there. And that's okay, because sometimes you can't budget for everything, and you just know that you're going to have to overspend in that account, but you just got to be very cognizant of what you're doing in all the other accounts.
Did you keep your other expenditures lower to make up for that one?
Yeah.
Can I ask one more thing? Is this, I thought the ESSER funds were finished last year. This year they're going to pay out, but there aren't any more. Is that right?
That's correct.
We purposely made the choice of, we could have received all the ESSER funds last year, but in trying to level out the revenues over both years and looking at our fund balance, we really needed to have some of that in this year.
That's good. I know some area districts are really hurting this year like they were using ESSER funds to pay for extra paras and things like that. I'm glad Ozark doesn't seem to be having that trouble.
It's because we didn't take everything immediately, and we're really trying to avoid that financial cliff over time.
Thank you.
Just to note, our auditor will be in December to give a full report for when they came in and went through our books and went through the audit. And I always like to say that 26% is, you know, healthy, not wealthy. And so that's a good place to be. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Registered Youth Apprenticeship Job Description and DOL Agreement.
Yeah, so I'm excited. Last year, we brought to you Registered Youth Apprentices with, we were working with the Mill, and so that was in the culinary program. This year, we are adding Registered Youth Apprentice with our Teaching Pathways, and with our Teaching Pathways, we'll have 7 students who will actually be working for Ozark Schools. We will be both will be the employer and the one giving the main instruction. So that will go through Mrs. Hilton and her class in the Teaching Pathways. And so students will have 2 blocks out of their 8-block schedule that will allow them to be in a classroom and do more than what a teacher, an A-plus student would do. They're actually going to help, they'll sit in collaborations with teachers. They'll be able to assist in many other ways. And there's a whole list of competencies that they'll be working to achieve as the year goes on. And so we'll start small. I would love to expand this to apprenticeships in maintenance and custodial and other areas that our school has those opportunities to develop student skills.
We need a motion to approve the,
And so you're approving the job description and the agreement with the DOL.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second?
motion by Guy, seconded by Sarah. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Are there any other schools in this area that have this program right now?
I think we are number 3. I believe Marshfield has 1 student, and Bolivar has a couple, and then we're the largest, actually.
I really hope this is also a pipeline into the education field.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
All right. Next is the Magma Math Agreement.
Magma Math. I am super excited. I typically don't get excited to spend money. You can ask my wife. That's not typical what I do, but this is a really exciting opportunity. Our 8th grade math team, which is 8th grade general math and algebra 1, so that would be the full spectra of 8th grade math students, have all agreed to try out this program. And so it'll be a 1-year for us to test it out and see if we want to expand it. If we expand, the price actually goes down. So we are coming in at the higher price because we only have 500 students involved. So what this program does, often when a math teacher is teaching, what they can't see is into the thinking of what kids are doing. The erasers are there. Sometimes we'll give a practice problem, and they'll do it on a whiteboard, but you can't see everything that's going on. So it's hard to see what a student is doing. This program records the marks as they're working on their computer, and it allows playback. So it says if the student got it right, if the student got it right after multiple attempts, and if the student got it wrong. So after I've taught a lesson, then I can give them a practice set, and students can do the 5 to 8 practice problems, and then the teacher has an immediate feedback of which questions for the whole class are green, which ones are mainly yellow. Is one student yellow all the way across or have multiple reds? And the coolest thing about it is they can easily put it on the board and show, here's all of you got this problem correct, but let's look at the 3 different ways that you chose to do this. And they just press play, and it shows the student as the calculations as the student is going through it. So this is one correct way versus this way. So it gives the math talk, the ability to have the conversation around there's multiple ways to attack a problem, there's multiple ways to think through it, or you could easily show how a student tried something multiple attempts and still didn't get there. I am just so excited that we can see into the thinking. So it's the 8th grade math team. I walked in and I said, hey, I've got something I really want you to try. You're either gonna love me or hate me. When I left, they loved me. They love this product, and they're really excited to try it out for the school district.
Craig, that sounds great. Does that, I guess, does it include training for teachers? And then are teachers interested in that? Are they gonna, what's kind of the teacher standpoint?
The 8th grade math team asked if they should all show up in
here?
support. They
Any
are
8th
not.
grade
I
teachers
told them
here?
they didn't have to.
Okay.
But they are super excited about it because
no
of the
support.
opportunities. They did. They said, well, should we all show up to support you so we can get this? And I said, I think we'll be okay. But they're very excited about it.
And
But
then
there
is
will
this-
be a training day for them to go through and learn how to use the program.
And then is this expandable to other, like elementary, middle school, high school? Is that?
Our elementary, I wouldn't want Dr. Sappington and team have done a great job with elementary. I don't want to mess up anything down there. Our secondary is where math gets harder in the calculations, and it also, achievement all over the state in the secondary kind of goes down. And so this would be primarily a secondary tool at first. I would love for it to work well and for us to expand the use for sure.
I was going to ask that same thing. We've all been in the classroom and had some person somewhere far removed from education say, here, you have to do this now too. But if it's going to be something that's helpful to them, often teachers will talk about, watch out for this mistake. A lot of kids will try to do it this way, but it won't work. So if you could show those 3 different ways and talk about it and have conversations and kids hear that terminology being used in sentences and paragraphs, it sounds like a great thing, but I wondered, what do the teachers
Well,
think
as soon
about?
as
Is
we
that,
get it
are the
implemented-
teachers going to have to spend their own extra time, or they get to use it while they're in the classroom? It'll help the kids too.
Yes, and so they can use it as exit tickets after class, they can look at it at home, they can look at it in class while people are working, it's real time.
Okay.
And it has problem sets that are aligned to standards, so teachers don't have to create the problem sets, but it also gives us the ability, our teachers say, we've got really good problem sets we like, and they want to input their own problem sets, so it
Yeah.
allows both. So they're really excited about it, and I'd love for you to come watch once we get it going. I think as a math teacher, you will kind of
love
get
it.
giddy. Yeah, because it's really cool.
Good. I just didn't want it to be something the teacher has to spend extra time trying to watch something and decipher what happened.
Correct.
But
Yep.
can it be watched privately also? Like a kid could come up and say, I just can't figure
Oh,
out why I'm not getting
absolutely.
it.
Yep, absolutely.
good.
So it can be used one-on-one with tutoring, it can be used on the board, it can be used in multiple ways.
I know it's not part of the board business, but thanks for letting me talk about that.
Yeah, I know, it's great. I'm really excited about it.
Need a motion to approve.
I move we approve that Magma math purchase.
Was that a motion?
Yeah, I said I move we approve that Magma math contract for next year.
Second.
Motion by Christina, second by James. All in favor? Unanimously approved. Moving on to SRO supervision stipend.
As you know, we have a great SRO department, and we have been calling on them more and more, using them for all kinds of extra duties, extra activities. And so we've been working on this for about 3 years, actually, to try to figure out a way to compensate them. They do not receive any extra stipend on top of their salary, and so all of those extra hours are beginning to get a little bit too much. Our administrators have a $2,500 supervision stipend, so we are asking that you approve each SRO a $2,500 supervision stipend to cover the consistently increasing extra activities that we are asking them to cover.
Is that for, as they sign up, do all the SROs have to do extra duty?
Yes,
Or-
ma'am.
Oh, they do? Oh.
Yes, they go through and schedule all of their events.
Is
They
it
get-
required?
Yes.
Amber asked. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry.
No, it is, yes. And when we first started, it was just kind of ball games, this, that, and the other, but they come to board meetings now, the town halls, elementary events, junior high events. They're stretched very, very thin, so we need to look at some compensation for them.
How many SROs? We have 8? Is that right?
6.
6, sorry. should
I
know.
take 8.
I'll second it.
Motion by Dustin, second by Guy. All in favor? Unanimously approved. And no, we have, last item is surplus property. Mr. Carson?
Let's end this one on a good one. This is a good one.
Surplus property, so sometimes we surplus used desks and things that are no longer any use to us, but this is something that is kind of fun. We're surplusing a steer, Black Angus steer, roughly 600 pounds. In the past, we just take them to the Joplin stock yard and they'll sell it there. And we've asked for at least $1,500. And so what this does in our curriculum, it allows students to plan ahead, think through creating that budget, and then watching the sale process go through.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
I just have a quick question. It's not a question about, I'm glad we're doing that. Why did we pick Joplin and not something in Christian County, you know, over by Highlandville, Stockyards?
Springfield would be the
Okay.
closest, but
But Christian County is, you know, our county, our tax
It's definitely better priced.
money. Good, okay, good. Okay, thanks.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimously approved.
Thanks, guys.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make an emotion that we adjourn.
Second. Oh,
Dustin got it.
Dustin got the second. All in favor? Let's go home.